I've made it no secret on the channel that I actually enjoy the transfer portal, and I love seeing how all the dominoes fall. If a player's time or talent is wasted, I am all for them transferring to find a new and better opportunity, and I also love the constant change of college football. That's probably why I don't like the NFL. In today's video, I want to highlight two players who, in my opinion, need to enter the 2026 transfer portal and I think could be electric or become stars at their next schools. They also both have a chance at becoming 2027 NFL draft prospects, and today we're going to talk about who both of these guys are, why I think they should leave, and then potentially where they could go. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about two players who I think should enter the transfer portal. Okay, so the first guy I want to talk about is Demond Williams Jr. I did a full-length feature on him back in the month of July, so if you want to check that out, be my guest. But he ended up going to Basha High School in Chandler, Arizona, and Demond Williams Jr. was one of the top quarterbacks in the class of 2024. In fact, he was listed as the number 12 quarterback in the nation and the 205th overall player. He had offers from all around the country, including a ton of SEC schools, and despite him being undersized at only 5'11", he was definitely a star while he was in high school. He ended up passing for 10,035 yards and 93 total touchdowns. He also was tremendous on the ground, as he had ran for about 2,800 yards and 42 touchdowns. This guy was just a star, was a jitterbug, and was a lot of fun to watch. He ultimately would decide to commit to Arizona, who at the time had Jedd Fisch as their head coach. He also just saw the success of Noah Fifita, so Demond Williams Jr. was going to be the next big thing. Unfortunately for Arizona fans, Fisch would take the head coaching job at Washington, so Demond would enter the transfer portal and would head up to Washington. In my opinion, it was too early for him to start right away, so they ended up going with Will Rogers, who I thought would be decent after he was at Mississippi State, but he ended up struggling. Demond would take over at the back half of the 2024 season though, as he ended up starting against Oregon, throwing for 200 yards and a touchdown, and then in their bowl game against Louisville, he was magical. He threw for 374 yards and 4 touchdowns, and also had a rushing score. He completed 81% of his passes, and PFF thought this guy was legit. In total, he had about 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns with 1 pick, and also 2 more scores on the ground. Going into 2025, Demond was projected as one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten, and someone who could take that next step. Washington ended up having a good start to the season, as they went 5-1, and Demond was solid through those first games. He ended up having 2 touchdowns in a win over UC Davis, 5 touchdowns against Washington State, and then most recently, 4 touchdowns in a win over number 23 Illinois. Washington has had some bad losses this year though, as they got blown out by both Michigan and Ohio State, and then recently lost to Wisconsin, who was absolutely horrible, and I think their punter was their leading passer. In my opinion, this is the reason why Demond Williams needs to leave. It seems like Jedd Fisch is checked out. We've all heard the rumors online about his family leaving the state, so I think Jedd Fisch is as good as gone, and some are linking him to the Florida job. In that case, I see no reason why Demond wouldn't follow him, as it makes logical sense. Not only is Demond good enough for that, but it'll be an upgrade and he'll be with his old coach. So far through the year, Williams has 2,300 yards with 15 touchdowns and about 500 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. He's a really good player, and I think wherever Jedd Fisch goes after the season, Demond goes. If not, he might get a big NIL package to stay here, or he'll go somewhere else, but I do think he should transfer and find a new school, because I feel like things are going to fall apart here in Washington soon. No offense to Huskies fans. Alright, so speaking of Florida, the second guy I want to talk about is DJ Lagway. Everybody knows DJ Lagway at this point, as he was literally the top quarterback in the class of 2024, and the guy who was supposed to save Billy Napier at Florida. Unfortunately, that has not exactly happened, but going back in time, this guy was absolutely insane. He ended up going to Willis High School in Texas, and after just being your average 4-star recruit, he had an incredible senior season in which he changed the trajectory of his life. He ended up passing for 4,604 yards and 58 touchdowns his senior year, and because of that, he was the National High School Quarterback of the Year. He went from a 4-star to the number 1 quarterback in the country, and Lagway was going to be the next big thing. He even passed up Julian Sayin. He would arrive at Florida back in 2024, and despite them having Graham Mertz, when he got hurt, Lagway was told it was time to go. He had an interesting first season there, as Lagway would end up throwing for just under 2,000 yards with 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Honestly, he never had a game that wowed me, but he was a true freshman who was not supposed to play that year, and the offense isn't exactly the most passer-friendly either. Going into 2025, he was dealing with some sort of off-season injury that nobody seemed to know what was going on, and he just hasn't really been all that great this year. Sure, he had 3 touchdowns against Long Island, but against any other competition, he hasn't really been great. He didn't play well against USF, had 5 interceptions against LSU, didn't throw a touchdown against Miami, and then had 2 interceptions in a loss to Mississippi State. His best game was probably the A&M game in which they lost, and then in recent weeks, he only had 1 touchdown and 160 yards against Georgia, and then had 1 touchdown and 3 picks in a blowout loss on the road to Kentucky. Lagway would even end up getting benched, and it just doesn't seem things are working out for him in Florida. I think he has plenty of talent, but his confidence is shot, he's not playing in the right system, and he needs a fresh start. Honestly, in my opinion, Jedd Fisch should be the head coach at Florida, but I don't know if it's going to end up happening. If he does, I think he's bringing Demond Williams Jr. with him, and no matter what, Lagway should transfer. Honestly, he still has plenty of stock where he could go pretty much anywhere in the country, and I saw one article that listed 4 potential destinations as they had Florida State, LSU, Tennessee, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss will be losing Trinidad Chambliss, and I'm not sure if Austin Simmons is really the answer. Tennessee has their 1-year rental in Joey Aguilar, and then a couple of guys who have no experience. LSU might roll with Michael Van Buren, but they would probably definitely take Lagway. And then finally at Florida State, Castellanos will be done after this year. Unless they want to roll with redshirt freshman Kevin Sperry, I think Lagway would be an immediate upgrade. Either way, I think both Lagway and Demond Williams Jr. will enter the 2026 transfer portal, get pretty big offers, and end up having a good season next year. Honestly, Demond has been a lot better than DJ this year, but both of these guys in my opinion need to transfer. But what do you guys think? If you're a fan of one of these 2 players, where do you think they'll end up? Who's another player you think will enter the portal? And what topic should I do next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.